Hi guys, and welcome to this week's video tutorial. This will be board number 29 from Dubious positions and how to attack them. Again, I would like to express my thanks to Master Xiangqi and Grandmaster Xiangqi for allowing me to use their material to make this video. Now, in this example, we will be touching on a very important issue of attacking the central file if you were to play the central cannon. Usually, it will be a mistake to push the central pawn forward if there were no support with preferably a chariot that has crossed the river. And in this example, we will see why doing so is such a bad idea. So without further ado, let us begin. Central cannon, screen house defense, and red did not push any pawn forward. Instead, he developed both horses as proper horses. Black pushes p7 plus 1. Red goes for r1 equals to 2. r9 equals to 8. And in today's board, red would push p5 plus 1. Now this would be the dubious position. Dubious position, there will be the discussion of today's topic of discussion today. Now, this is a mistake that sometimes beginners would make. Now, because red had not pushed any chariot across the river, doing so would not be a good idea. Usually, p7 plus 1 or r2 plus 6 would be a better move in this situation. Now, if p7 plus 1 would play, black would go for c2 plus 4 for the double pawn rank cannon's variation. So, at this point in time, usually r2 plus 4 is played to prevent the dreaded double pawn rank cannons also. So, faced with this move, red is very obvious. He has showed his intentions very obviously. He wants to attack the central file and develop his chariots from the central file to attack. Now, how will black counter? Usually, c8 plus 4 is advocated. Now, this is a very sound move, and it is also the advocated move in this situation because the pawn pushed. Red cannot play p3 plus 1, and he would have trouble developing either horse to the central file. For example, if he played a4 plus 5, black would play r2 plus 6, and black would have lost a good opportunity to seize a command initiative. Okay, p7, c plus 4, and red will continue with p5 plus 1, and black will play a4 plus 5 to consolidate his central file. Now, this should also happen to be the position of discussion in this situation. With a4 plus 5, black is prepared to play e3 plus 5, followed by r1 equals to 4 to develop the chariot. And with a4 plus 5, there's always the option of playing c2 equals to 5 if need be later on. So faced with this move, there are two major variations. The first of which would be p5 equals to 6, whereby red would try to move his pawn to safety, keep this pawn alive. The other would be p3 plus 1. Now, at this point in time, we must mention that p5 plus 1 is not a good idea because h3 plus 5, black would capture the offending pawn. Red would have used up 1, 2, 3 pawns, 3 moves to move this pawn, only to be captured by black's horse. h7 plus 5, and black will counter with a central cannon. Now, black can also play c8 equals to 5 to offer trade of material, and black will gladly sacrifice the chariot for attack. c2 equals to 5 will be a very powerful attacking move that red would have trouble dealing with. So this is a possibility for black also. But let's say c2 equals to 5 were played. Check. And black would now have consolidated his defense. One horse and one cannon will cross the river. The chariot would have open lines for development. Red's left flank would be underdeveloped, and black would have a significant advantage obviously, at this point in time. So p5 plus 1 would be a bad idea because of the loss in tempi. And this would also demonstrate the fact that red needs a chariot to protect the pawn for it to advance for the attack to be threatening. So let us go to variation A. p5 equals to 6 as red tries to keep his pawn alive. e3 plus 5. Red would have consolidated his defense in time. p6 plus 1. Again, we can count the number of moves that red has used for the pawn. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 out of 8 plies in the first 8 moves. So if this pawn were captured, it will mean that red would have lost 4 moves in terms of tempi. c2 plus 4 will be a very aggressive counter by black because this would prevent red from trying to develop the horses, apply a lot of pressure, compress the the pressure on the space that red can move. p7 plus 1 is usually played as red attempts to develop the horse. r1 equals to 4 to threaten the pawn, and red will be faced with the dilemma if keeping the pawn alive. Of course, he would play p7, p6 equals to 7. Otherwise, he would have lost 4 moves so far, and doing so will threaten the black horse. Black will simply retreat the horse and form a very powerful blockade on red's cannon rank. As can be seen, at this point in time, red had only one pawn across the river, and which cannot do much. It cannot advance or maneuver. Otherwise, the horse would be prepared to capture it. And if it moved away, it would be further. If it moved piece 7 equals to 8, whereby it would be protected by the cannon, the pawn would now be even further away from the black king, and this would not be desirable. So, although the red pawn had crossed the river, it even managed to force the black horse to retreat. The same piece had been moved too many times, and obviously, the losses sustained would greatly outweigh the gains that red had made with this cross river bank pawn. And also, black would now be prepared to attack. The horse would be a menace, etc. Now, black would now have seized and commanded the situation very nicely. Variation B, p3 plus 1. Red sacrifices the pawn. The line of thinking behind this move was that he wanted to force a breakthrough and be freed from the pin by the black cannon and chariot. This is also a commonly used tactical combination whereby red would sacrifice the pawn and then play one of the horses to the central file, threatening to capture it back again. Black will gladly capture it. Red will play h3 plus 5, and at this point in time, black must be careful and play p7 equals to 6. Now, if black casually played p7 plus 1, red will be allowed to make this move h5 plus 3, and he will now occupy the tiger-headed horse position, whereby red can go for protect the pawn and go for the elbow horse attack if need be. And black cannot be free of worries at this point in time. So that is why p7 equals to 6 would be a good idea, because now the horse cannot move h5 plus 3, and black will be prepared to play p6 plus 1. So usually red will develop his horse over here, threatening to capture the horse, and black will actually gladly sacrifice the horse by consolidating the defense over the central file. Now this is a steadfast and powerful move, and it will be a pseudo-sacrifice at this point in time. Now, black cannot make the mistake of playing c8 equals to 5, because red would gladly counter with c5 equals to 3, and red would have the advantage, because now the chariot cannot capture the the red chariot. Oh, sorry. Okay, h5 plus 3. The black chariot cannot capture the red chariot, or this would be an immediate checkmate. And at this point in time, the horses would be threatening to capture the cannon. So for example, if black tried to consolidate its defense, red would capture material, and red would now gain material. So red would have an advantage in this situation. So that is why black cannot jump the gun and play c8 equals to 5, thinking that he will gain a chariot with this discovered check. So h6 plus 7, e3 plus 5 by black to sacrifice the horse, which would be a pseudo sacrifice. Let's say red accepted. p5 plus 1. Black needs to consolidate his defense, and as can be seen, the horse cannot move anywhere. All its routes are severed. And now black will take his time to threaten the horse, and red will be forced to counter-sacrifice the horse back in return. Now, h7 plus 5 will not be a good idea, even though the cannon will be protecting the horse, because black will gladly capture it and then play a discovered check to capture the chariot. And losing a chariot so early in the game, and also so early in the game, would mean that black would have a huge advantage. Besides, black would be prepared to play p5 plus 1 or r8 minus 6 to threaten the cannon. So there will be many options for black to continue, and black would have the advantage. Neither would h7 plus 8 be a good idea, even though the cannon will be protecting the horse, because black would simply move the cannon to the palace corner, thus denying the red cannon a cannon mount to protect the horse. Let's say the horse moved, threatening the capture again, and black would apply a fork, threatening the horse. Let's say it moved again, and again red will simply retreat the chariot to capture and skin the horse alive, because now they cannot capture this cannon because it's protected. But either way, black will be prepared to push the pawn forward, and being able to get a set of linked pawns on the central file and the root file so early in the game would mean that black will have a supreme advantage. Of course, instead of this move, black could also consider playing r2 plus 4 to target the pawn, etc. And red will also find it very difficult to deal with the situation. So that is why counter-sacrificing the horse would be a good idea. And after which, although red would have gained a advisor, we can see that in terms of the development of the pieces, black would be much further ahead. His pieces are all ready to go, are in the open. There's always a threat of the cannons, and p5 plus 1. So let us review this board again from the eyes of black. The one thing to note, we can see that since the chariot moved, this was the last time that red was able to move any chariot in both variations, and that is why trying to get the chariot into action to support your attack or defend is one of the major opening tenets in Xiangqi. So let us retract. Central cannon, screen house defense. Red develops both horses as proper horses. p7 plus 1, threatening to capture the cannon, and this will be the dubious move. Too early, no support. c8 plus 4, a very brilliant counter move to decrease the space of black's material, and also there's always the ever-present threat of c8 equals to 5 that is present. Red continues to attack, black consolidates defense, and this will be the position of discussion. Again, p5 plus 1 will be a mistake because black will develop his material very quickly. In p5 plus 1 variation A, black consolidates his defense and continues to attack. p7 plus 1, 1 plus 4, retreat, and black will push the pawn to control red's pawn rank, and black would have no space to develop his material, and he'll be in all sorts of trouble. Variation B, p3 plus 1, tactical combination to sacrifice the pawn, hoping to gain some space. p7 plus 1, e3 plus 5, p7 equals to 6. Remember, p3 plus 1 should not be played. h5 plus 6, black will gladly sacrifice the horse, consolidates defense, and then push p5 plus 1 forward. a6 plus 5, and red will be forced to sacrifice the horse. If you did not, black would be even further ahead in terms of development of material. And we can see that black would have a very powerful, very ideal situation going on. Black will enjoy a tremendous advantage. So, if you like the work that I've been doing, please do subscribe to my channel and give me a thumbs up for this video. Thank you.